Hello. Today I would talk about the speed bumps I've suffered using Linux in the last couple of months. And perhaps by notifying you about them, it might prevent you from buying the wrong item or save you some grief and trouble. The first biggest speed bump I've had is I've had a difficulty in getting this little Etamax Wi-Fi dongle to work. Now, I have TP-Link dongles too, and they work just fine, but this Etamax has always been problematic. It'll work during an installation, and then for a little bit, and eventually it'll conk out. And I think somewhere after the first update, the drivers get replaced, and there's some kind of bug. And the only way I've really ever gotten it to work is through MX15, which I've also had this problem with a Realtek driver on my laptop. So what I did just took MX15, used their excellent Broadcom driver program, and then reloaded the drivers, Wi-Fi drivers, that the computer initially installs to, and then lock those in and disable any other kind of upgrades or updates. And then the Wi-Fi drivers work very nicely. But it has been kind of a pain, and I have a feeling that pain's also shared by people with Broadcom drivers too. So, not surprisingly, Wi-Fi drivers can be pretty problematic. We've also used Wi-Fi drivers that are built in to gigabyte motherboards, and we've had no problem with those. So that's Wi-Fi drivers. Second thing I've had problems with is Linux Mint. Now, I've been running 17.3, and it's a good distribution. I haven't reviewed it yet, but it's on my list of distributions to review. We run it on my wife's laptop and have absolutely no problems with it. It's just wonderful. But when I installed it on two of my desktop, I would get a weird screen freeze where if I was, for example, listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube video, the audio would carry on, but the mouse would freeze and the keyboard would freeze. So no matter what I did, I couldn't exit out. It was really weird. And let me correct that. The keyboard would freeze, but the mouse you could scroll all over the screen. But left clicking, right clicking, center clicking wouldn't work. And I think it was some kind of memory leak in doing some research on the internet. And it kind of drove me nuts. I thought it might have been related to the graphics cards. I was running NVIDIA graphic cards on both, and I went back to the inherent motherboard graphics card that are built into the motherboard, and I still had no joy. It would eventually always shut down, and it would happen every time I ran the program, anywhere from 5 minutes in to 25 minutes in. It was very frustrating, and so the simple answer was to move on to a different distribution for those desktops. And I also believe that problem also carried over to Ubuntu 16.04, so it wasn't strictly a Linux Mint problem. It was something inherently wrong with my hardware, causing some kind of memory leak, I think. Not 100% sure. But so that's Linux Mint. And then the other problems I've had, and this is mostly shooting myself in the foot. What I've done is installed a new distribution, and sometimes my hard drives, I can have quite a few distributions, and I usually have more than one hard drive on a computer. And when I install it, if I'm not careful, I will have the bootloader get installed to the wrong disk. And so that's something you always want to be careful at. Right here you can see the EFI system partition at DEV SDA2 will be used for starting Manjaro. When you do an installation, you always want to check where the boot driver is going to be loaded. And sometimes, depending which of the choices up here you take, install alongside, replace a partition, erase disk, manually partition, you can get into problems. Usually when it says, you manually partition, then you've got full control over where the bootloader goes. On Ubuntu loader, loading screens, it'll say, I want to do something else, I think is what that's called. Anyhow, so you really want to watch where your grub is going to be installed to, because that can create quite a lot of problems. Sometimes you're best off not installing the grub and then just updating your grub, running a command like OS prober, but that's getting a little advanced, and I don't really want to. Purpose of this websites to make life easier and not harder getting involved in terminal commands. And other than that, I've had a really, really problem-free 2 months. Computers have been able to do everything I wanted them to do. I did crash Manjaro for the very first time today. I had about 8 to 10 windows open in my browsers, spread across 2 different browsers, and I came back after the computer went to sleep, typed in the password, got it back up again, and immediately the keyboard and mouse froze, and I had to do a hard reset. I couldn't even, do a kill program. So that was disappointing to see, but that's the first time in over 2 months of running the system. So I'm very pleased with all the different distributions I'm using, and to tap those off, it's Manjaro 1608, it's my primary. I'm running Chaos, I'm running Chapeau 24, I'm running Ubuntu 16.04 for games and its ability to have the driver for the advanced AMD Radeon graphics cards. And I really, really enjoy working with them all. My wife's running Linux Mint without a problem. I have a son running Ubuntu Mate without a problem. He's pushing in on 2 months with a absolutely brand new build and has had absolutely no problems with Mate. So that's great. And I'm just really impressed with how far the Linux world and distributions have come in the last 2 years. So there you have it. See you next time. Thanks for watching.